Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Locker Room. I'm your host, Tommy Tellerino, and after 2 long weeks in the trenches, Jordan Jeffrey Navarro is back with us. Jordan, I'm glad you're back. I missed you.
Don't be saying my government like that, man. My name is Jose. No, it's phenomenal to be back, Tommy. The life of a student never ends, and one that procrastinates is even worse. But we back. I've made time for my lovely co-host.
Oh, thanks.
I would have it no other way than to be on The Locker Room with you, man.
Oh, I appreciate it. Well, I'm glad you got your work done, at least for.
I never said anything like that.
I'll rephrase it. I'm glad you got your work done to be able to join us this week.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Can always find time.
Yeah, that's right. But we'll talk about Thursday night games first. That was such a stellar game. It definitely wasn't just 2 mid-teams battling out.
They're having a mid-off. No, it was, if you're a fan of the AFC North, it was exactly what you would like, Tommy. It was not entertaining in the slightest offensively. But hey, there were some highlights for Cleveland fans.
Cleveland, that was for you.
Yes, Cleveland, you had Jacoby Brissett, or as he's more famously called on The Locker Room, Jacoby Brisket. He had a pretty good game. He was slow smoking them balls to his receivers, and he was really doing some good things. Tommy, Cleveland had a great game plan. It was called "Make Mitchell Trubisky Beat You," and as all the teams that have done it in the past, they've all followed that game plan when they play Mitch Trubisky. It usually works, and it's pretty phenomenal when it does.
I'd say 9 times out of 10 it works. There was that one season where he looked really good, and that was about it.
Yeah, Matt Nagy, did he not, he almost won Coach of the Year or did, something like that? I don't know.
Something outrageous after.
Yeah, I don't, it must have been Freaky Friday or something. I don't know.
This is weird times, man. Weird times. But I'm glad you brought up our boy, Jacoby Brisket. I'll read off some stats. 21 for 31, 220 yards, around 7 yards per throw, 2 touchdowns. That's all you really need him to do if you're the Browns.
Had a 92.5 PFF grade on that game, which is incredible because Baker Mayfield never hit anything like that with Kevin Stefanski. And Kevin Stefanski is quickly becoming one of my favorite coaches in the NFL because he just, he understands. I have mediocre quarterbacks. So, instead of being hey, I'm going to make you try to be good. No, he's just be mediocre, but be the best mediocre that you can possibly be. And Jacoby Brisket is perfect at that.
That's all you need. That's really all you need. We've seen it from multiple teams. But we'll talk about, you said Brisket was throwing it to receivers. By receivers, did you mean Amari Cooper and David Njoku? Because
that was it. It was the only 2.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because they combined for 16 of the 21 passes that were caught. Amari Cooper, 7 catches, 101 yards, 1 touchdown, back-to-back solid games. David Njoku, first good game of the year. The past 2, it's like he just sat on the sideline most of the game. 9 for 89, about 9 yards a catch and 1 tutty. I mean, we've been looking for that for the past couple years out of Njoku.
And, they just gave him that contract in the offseason. He's an athletic, freak. He reminds me a lot of Vernon Davis, coming from a Niners fan. And, you look at this targets week 1, it was 1. And Jacoby Brissett, said after week 1, hey, Amari Cooper is getting, wide open. Butt booty naked, nobody on him. I need to be looking for him. And then week 2, Njoku got 5 targets. Amari Cooper had a 100-yard game. Now this week he has 10 targets. It seems to me that Brissett, unlike what usually happens when he comes in to start, which is he usually starts pretty high and then teams figure him out and then we realize he can't start in the NFL, he seems to be developing and getting more comfortable in the Stefanski offense. And, I love to see Njoku involved. He's got to earn that contract, and he's probably their second best receiver right now behind Amari Cooper, and, as the tight end.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he brought up Cooper too, because Njoku's just been solid for him, and I hope to see better games from him like this throughout the year. But Cooper, we did not expect this at all. We thought this is going to be the downfall of Amari Cooper. It's going to be another Odell situation, and it's the complete opposite for him.
And you just gotta, as a Browns fan, you got until week 13, right? The man who should not be named is coming back then, and he's Deshaun is a lot more talented than Jacoby. I don't think that's an argument. So if Amari Cooper's playing this well with Jacoby, you can only imagine what he'll play like with Deshaun. He might be, outside of Hopkins, he might be the second best receiver Deshaun Watson's ever played with. So
yeah. You're not wrong. I mean, Deshaun Watson's played with bumps, so...
Yes, and played with Bill O'Brien. And Kevin Stefanski is easily the best head coach he's had. And Amari, first Browns receiver, this stat blew my mind when I saw it. First Browns receiver with back-to-back 100-yard games is Josh Gordon in 2013, when he was Flash Gordon, when he was high, drunk, cross-faded, out there getting 150 yards a game. That blew my mind. And they've had Jarvis Landry, they've had Odell. How do you go that long without back-to-back 100-yard games from a receiver?
Especially, like you said, the talent they've had. Like Jarvis Landry had 100-plus yards his first game in New Orleans. And in year 8, Odell, I mean, we saw what he did for the Rams in the playoffs. He's easily capable of putting up 100 yards. And the fact that they couldn't do that back-to-back is crazy. I think Brisket might be the most consistent QB they've had the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Baker pre-injuries was, he was looking pretty good with Stefanski, but yeah, I mean, you might not be wrong. He's, shout out to Jacoby. He's done great. I want to see Njoku and Cooper, maybe not 10 targets for Njoku, but he needs to leave every game with like 6 to 8 targets and keep feeding Cooper like they have. They got Rub-a-Dub Chubb. He's out there breaking tackles. I know you're going to get to that in a second probably. You got stats. He's out there breaking tackles, getting 100 yards. Kareem Hunt, he's doing what his thing. He's kicking it in the backfield. It's just absolutely phenomenal, the game plan that Kevin Stefanski has had with this much mid at quarterback.
I know. I mean, like you said, too, Nick Chubb, 23 for 113. But Kareem Hunt also had 12 carries, 47 yards. I know that Kareem Hunt wanted to be traded late in the offseason, but if I'm the Browns, I'm keeping this duo as long as we can. Those both
for sure
are RB1s on any team in the league, in my opinion. They
Absolutely.
easily could be an RB1.
It's the best running back room in the league because to me, Dearness Johnson is pretty solid as well. He could definitely be a solid RB2 on most teams. I mean, it's just they have all the pieces there to have a decent record with Jacoby and get Deshaun back, and assuming Deshaun is not washed and, taking a year and a half, almost 2 off doesn't ruin him, which I don't think it will, they should be really good.
Yeah. And I'll get back to it a little bit later with Deshaun. I have a little question for you, just depending on how the Browns season turns out. But I want to talk about Pittsburgh for a little bit, just because this is a 3rd week now where their defense has played solid. I don't think the defense looked that terrible in this game.
They did miss T.J. Watt for sure. There's a couple of times where Jacoby got out of the pocket and they picked up some plays that shouldn't have been picked up. And you can tell they need T.J. Watt. He's the motor that keeps that defense running. But yeah, like you said, I felt like the defense as a whole played well enough to win this game.
Because if you look back at the 3 games, the first one they win against the Bengals, that's solely off defense. They picked off Burrow 4 times, and Minka Fitzpatrick was huge. T.J. Watt was getting the quarterback, and then they had New England come in. New England's offense didn't look that great against them. Pittsburgh held them down to only 17 points, 1 possession game. And then this week, the final score was 29-17, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that last touchdown was a fumble recovery.
Yes.
So, I mean, they kept it within 1 possession. It's just this offense can't break away. And we were talking about how mid Mitchell Trubisky is. 20 for 32, 270 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions.
And, people are going to point to the Deontay Johnson drop on the go route down the sidelines. He wouldn't have scored on that. And then he had the pass interference in the red zone. Or I guess it wasn't in the red zone. They got to the red zone. But like you said, Mitchell Trubisky is more athletic than Big Ben has been in 12 years, at least. Probably just purely arm strength-wise, probably has a better arm, if not the same arm, which we saw produced scores last year. I mean, it wasn't pretty by any means of imagination, but the offense wasn't nearly as bad last year. The only thing he doesn't have is the mental of a Hall of Fame quarterback in Big Ben, and you would think we're going to game plan around that. We're going to – no, he looks like he has not evolved at all since leaving Chicago. And I went on before the season. We had this conversation. I thought Mitch was going to do good in Pittsburgh. I thought, well, Matt Nagy may have, done some things that hurt him. Because at one time, he looked okay. He looked like a average, startable NFL quarterback who had flashes of being well above average at times. There's just nothing here, man. Like, you can't tell me Kenny Pickett is not just as good as him right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. And one thing that I noticed, this is hurting Najee Harris a lot with Trubisky in the lineup, in my opinion, because Najee was holding it down in the run game, 15 for 56, not the greatest numbers, but when you look at Pittsburgh's offensive line, he's not working with much. But with Trubisky in the game, he didn't even have 2 catches, I believe, last night. When Big Ben was there, he was force-feeding Najee.
Yeah, I mean, Najee's not getting fed those checkdowns, putting himself in space. And Jaylen Warren came in and he provided some juice off the bench. He had a couple, decent chunk runs. But, people they didn't respect the run or the pass game that much with Big Ben. But like I said, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. If, you make a mistake blatantly trying to stack the box, Big Ben's going to hit the open man. He can't go deep that much anymore, but he's going to attempt. He's going to keep you honest. No one respects Mitchell Trubisky's ability to throw anyone open whatsoever. They don't. They don't care.
I mean, the one thing I would say that Mitchell Trubisky did different compared to Big Ben last year is he kind of spread the wealth a little bit more. I'll read off some numbers here. Deontay, 8 for 84. Pratt Firemuth, the Muth with Luth, as you say, 2 for 41. Pickens finally got some love in this game. The past 2 games, he's had 1 catch each time, 3 for 39. And Claypool, 3 for 35. I mean, that's the only bright spot I feel like with Trubisky in the game.
And Pickens had a hell of a catch as well.
Yeah.
Early candidate for catch of the year. I mean, that was a phenomenal catch. But,
better than Odell's, in my opinion.
Well, we're not gonna start controversial takes or anything.
Hey,
I don't care.
The man was sideways.
Hey, listen, man. You know what? It's on you. You believe that? It's fine.
Okay.
It's not an argument for me. It is what it is.
All right.
But I don't see how, you got Pickens, you got Claypool, who they're trying to use as like an off-brand Debo, I guess. You got Najee, Freiermuth, and Deontay. There's talent at every position, and Mitch just can't do anything. And I really wonder, you have a championship caliber defense. The worst part of that offense is the O-line, but you made it work last year somehow. And Mike Tomlin's never had a losing record. I wonder how long he lets this go. Because at some point, man, you got to see what Kenny Pickett can do. You may not want to put him behind that O-line. You may not want to put that pressure on him. But you're not winning games in the AFC North, especially if Deshaun comes back and the Browns are still in it. And, I think we both have faith that Cincinnati's going to figure something out. The offense is just too talented to continue to be like that. And then you got Baltimore, who looks like they're on a mission, and they're probably pissed off from the Miami game. And their defense has got to get better. They're really injured in that Miami game. They'll get better. This is the last place team right now, easily in my eyes, easily.
Yeah, after this Cleveland game, I always thought it probably is going to be either Cleveland or Pittsburgh in last place in this division.
Yeah.
It's definitely Pittsburgh in my opinion now, just because this offense is so stagnant. It really is. There's just nothing to it. And like you said, when do you bring in Kenny Pickett? I think between earliest week 6 to week 8, I could see it happen around there.
I think if they go out, who do they play next? Who's Pittsburgh play next? Do we know?
I can look it up for you.
I got it. They go against the Jets. You go in against the Jets. If you lose that game, then you got Buffalo and the Broncos, and those are 2 tough games. Man, they have a tough schedule. You got the Jets, which is should be a fairly easy one. Bills, Broncos, Miami. Then you play Philly and New Orleans. Their defense can keep them in all those games. That's the issue. But their offense scoring on any of those defenses, I don't see it. And to
Not
me,
a chance with offense.
Yeah, at some point you're gonna have to bring in Kenny Pickett to try to spark this offense, and it may have to be if you start the season. Let's see, they win against the Jets. Let's say they're 2-2 after the next week. Don't see them beating the Bills or the Buccaneers. You start the season off 2-4, 2-5 if they lose to Miami. I think you got to bring them in. I think, like you said, week 6 to week 8, at some point in that range, if you only got 2 wins, you got to bring him. There's just no point. You're probably not making the playoffs if you start like that. You might as well see what you got.
And I think Tomlin knows that. Tomlin he's one of the top coaches in the league, in my opinion, today. He's very consistent. You know what you're getting out of him. Yeah, the track record in the playoffs the past couple of years hasn't been great, but he knows how to bring a winning program to a franchise. I think eventually it's going to be a good program again. But right now, I think this is his first year under 500. I don't see him.
I can definitely see it. Unless Kenny Pickett comes in and is really good.
Yeah.
I won't say really good. He has to be. The issue with that, he can be better than Mitchell Trubisky and, athletically and, just a pure physical ability-wise, better than Big Ben this last year as well. But mentally, he's a rookie, and he's going to make rookie mistakes, and they play in a very tough division. It looks like they have a pretty tough schedule, at least at the start. So I'm going to agree with you. I think Mike Tomlin will finish under 500 this year.
Probably be one of his highest draft picks, too, ever. We'll see what he can do with it. We got a stacked 2023 draft class coming up. But before we move on for this game, I want to talk about Jacoby Brissett a little bit more. How far can he lead to this Browns team, you think? You think they can make the playoffs with him?
Yeah. I think he just has to keep them right around 500 going into that week that Deshaun comes back. Preferably, maybe two games above it. I think he can do that. He's played mistake-free football for the most part early in this season, and as long as he continues to not turn the ball over and understand that, hey, 25 to 30 pass attempts a game, that's all you got to do. Hand the ball off, hit who you have to hit. Because that's the great thing about Stefanski's offense. He rolls them out. There's a lot of play action. It's perfect for a quarterback. That's the perfect system for any quarterback that is just average or below average. Perfect. And Stefanski schemed it up perfectly, and Jacoby is executing it pretty well right now. So I do believe he could lead them to the playoffs, or at least lead them to a position where Deshaun could take them to the playoffs. Because I don't think, there's not a world where Jacoby's hot enough for them to not put the guy they just gave $250 million guaranteed in at quarterback.
Yeah, and I always thought, say the Browns say they fizzle out, they don't look good the rest of the year. Do you play Watson, or do you just keep him out till next year because you don't want to waste that contract if he gets hurt?
I would play him. I understand what you're saying, but you might as well get the reps with the guys under his belt going into next season. And if you end the season hot, that's just momentum you can carry over into the next year.
I think this is going to be an interesting team to watch. You know, the AFC is really tough. So
Yeah.
I still think it's going to be tough for them to get a wild card, especially with the AFC West. I mean, I know that Denver and Vegas haven't looked great, but there's still a lot of talent on those teams where they still are in the hunt there. Cleveland, they're taking out Atlanta next week. It'll be interesting to see. Pittsburgh, they're facing the Jets, so we'll talk about a little bit more of them next week. But we're on to week 3 Monday night picks. This is the first time where we're both here in the studio.
Yes, sir. And this will be the official start of the locker room pick'ems.
That's right.
Keeping tabs.
So when Jordan and I were living together, we had a whiteboard with all of our roommates on it. We used to do, basically, we lived in a suite. We'd do suite picks. And I believe, Jordan, did you walk away with it, or was it our roommate Deb?
I did walk away with it the first year. Deb was close.
Yeah.
But I did have a perfect week, 1 week, and that gave me a pretty decent lead.
Yeah, I mean, I remember at one point you were in the firing range of I'm creeping up on him, and you literally just would do one pick that was different from him, and then be like, oh, no, there, I'm done. Me, on the other hand, I was shooting wild cards. I was picking like probably Detroit winning against Green Bay 1 week. That's how I roll, though, sometimes. But we're starting it up this year again. Jordan and I are going head-to-head with picks. We are doing a little different, though. For primetime game, is it usually going to be primetime games?
Yeah, Sunday night, Monday night.
We are going to increase the odds on those. So if you get those right, we're doing +2.
Yep.
So we'll do +2 if you get that team right. I think we got to start it off with the storyline of the week. Texans versus the Bears.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Lovie Smith returns, baby.
Absolutely. You know, when we were doing these in the suite, I would always ask everyone what their pick was, and then, you know, if it was a bad matchup, everyone would just be like, who cares? I value every matchup. You know, every team has fans. So, I'm going to break this down from a fundamental standpoint. The Bears' pass offense cannot continue to only pass the ball 11 times. There's no way. There's just absolutely no way they can continue to do that. I think this is the week that they're going to let Justin Fields get a little loose, have a little fun in the pocket. I'm still going to pick Houston, though. I think Houston is being underrated as a team. Not saying they're good. I don't think they're good. But they are tougher than people imagine. So I'm going to pick Houston to win over Chicago.
I think this is going to be a very close game because both teams going into it have had issues with the passing game. General Davis Mills has looked good. He's looked bad in some possessions, but there's been positives. And like you said, Justin Fields, 15 for 28, 191 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions for the first 2 weeks. Yes. I want to say that is the second least amount of points or passes that have been thrown through 2 weeks. That is crazy. You have a talented quarterback back there who can throw the ball. We saw that last year.
That's a big arm. Yes, he has a big arm.
I think, like you said, you got to let them air it out because Houston, their secondary is not great. It's not great at all. It's one of the worst in the leagues. But David Montgomery had a big game against Green Bay.
He did, and Houston is very beatable.
Yeah, and I think it could be another big game for David Montgomery. I'm going to go Chicago because they're home.
All right, I like that. We all know you can't play in the ghetto better than the Bears can play in the ghetto.
That's right. They've been doing it their whole life. We'll move on. Las Vegas versus Tennessee. Both teams are 0-2 to start off the season.
This game is in Nashville. I'm picking Vegas. I'm going to keep it quick. Tennessee's corners have looked like booty. They have been awful. I've watched the Titans play. It's not a pleasant sight. I don't like watching Tennessee play. They're going to start the season off 0-3, and people are going to be calling for Malik Willis to start over Ryan Tannehill.
I got to agree with you on this. Tennessee has looked awful. I thought they were going to look a lot better against Buffalo. I really did. I thought Derrick Henry was going to – it was going to be one of those games where Derrick Henry rushes for 3 touchdowns, 150 yards. But Buffalo shut them down real quick. Tannehill was – Tannehill.
Go ahead, finish your thought.
No, I was done.
All right. It's just that was one of the biggest beatdowns I've ever seen, where a team that is, it was second favorite, or to the Colts, maybe they were co-favorites to win their division. They look completely outclassed. That's saying a lot about Buffalo being as good as they are this year, but it says a lot about Tennessee as well, because this is a team that was just in the AFC Championship game, not too long ago. It looks like they're done. I mean, it looks like this core is spent.
And this defense is not what it used to be. No. I kind of had the feeling after the Saquon game, I'm like, okay, what can this rush defense do? Because Landry, I believe, was hurt. I think he's out for the season. That was a key piece in their rush defense. The corners are awful. They never really were great, but they are awful.
A lot of it has to do with they're young and they'll get better. But they're just, with Harold Landry out, he was a big guy in the run game, but he was also their best pass rusher probably, at least from the outside. Jeffrey Simmons is obviously a beast, in the middle. But he was their best pass rusher, Landry was, and they're missing him sorely. And, I always say a good pass rush will cover up a bad secondary. But the secondary is bad, and they have no pass rush, so it's just not looking great. And you have Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow on the other side with Darren Waller, and it's not looking too promising.
I was just about to say Devontae Adams had a huge week 1, pretty silent week 2. I got a feeling Devontae Adams is going to put up Stephon Diggs numbers this Sunday. But Derek Carr could spread the wealth, but Devontae Adams could be in for a great week. I got Raiders winning. We're going to go back to the East Coast. Baltimore versus New England. Everything
tells me Baltimore is going to bounce back, win a game. They should have beat Miami. The run game, they keep saying J.K. Dobbins is close. If they, play him this week, that should really help the run game. The defense should be a little bit healthier than last week and, at least adjust. You can't get beat like that in the second half and not adjust. And then you play New England, whose offenses look, well, I won't mince words, Tommy. It's looked pitiful. And
you're not wrong.
And a defense that New England's defenses always start slow because they play so many concepts. It takes a while for that defense to round into form, so they always start slow. Everything tells me Baltimore should win this game. But, Tommy, there's just something about the thought. Is New England 0-2?
No, they're 1-1.
They're 1-1. There's something about the thought of a 1-2 start for Bill Belichick. I can't imagine it. I don't think he'll allow it. I'm going to go New England because it's in Gillette. I don't feel comfortable about the pick, but something just tells me to go with my gut here, and I think New England's going to pull off a shocker.
I've seen this many times where this is a game that is very winnable for New England. And like you said, Belichick, a very great coach. He doesn't go 1-2 very often. He said it himself. This is the biggest challenge so far this season. And I agree. Miami was a wash for them. They're playing in Miami. They never do well in Miami. I get that. Last week, the defense looked great, but offense still did not look good. And I don't know if they can contain Lamar Jackson. Matthew Judon looked good so far this season. I think this is his first time going up against Lamar Jackson after being teammates with him. I'm interested to see how these linebackers work against Lamar Jackson because the first time they faced off, it was pitiful. They just ran all over the place against him. I have Baltimore winning this one, but it's going to be very close. I can just see it now. Baltimore takes a lead. New England defense, they will him back in it. Mac Jones probably gets a early fourth quarter touchdown. And then the last drive, we're going to see probably a Mac Jones interception or a fumble by the offense, and that's the game. That's how I see this going. But I think it's going to be very close.
Yeah, I just, something about it. There's something about this game tells me that New England can pull it off, and it's one of those games where everyone thinks it's clear cut. New England's offense looks bad. Baltimore's offense looked good, but the defense looked bad. And everyone thinks, well, Baltimore's just more talented. Pick Baltimore. Something about this tells me New England is going to keep this way closer than Baltimore fans would like.
I hope Bill brings the hoodie back. He's been looking kind of cleaned up the past 2 weeks. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. That's not the Bill I know.
The sleeveless hoodie?
Yeah. I want him coming out to the Stone Cold Steve Austin music again and ready to kick some butt. I'm going to be honest. But
I might get it.
You never know. Hopefully. I think it'd be perfect time. Season opener in Gillette. So we got next Kansas City versus Indianapolis. In my opinion, this is an easy one now.
This is the easiest one on the slate for me. I'm going Kansas City, but not because I think Indianapolis is bad. I think they're way better than they showed in Jacksonville. I just don't see a way, other than Jonathan Taylor going for 250, offense is going to keep up with Kansas City. I mean, Patrick Mahomes looks just as good without Tyreek Hill. He might look better, to be honest with you. It's pretty incredible, and he's just spreading the wealth around.
Yeah, I'll read off some offensive numbers because this has probably been one of the top 5 offenses in the league. Mahomes, 54 for 74, 595 yards, 7 touchdowns. Kels, leading receiver, 13 catches, 172 yards, 1 tutty. And then Edwards-Helaire, his numbers are solid, 15 carries, 116 yards, but most of those are coming from a couple big run plays. Indy, those first 2 games should have been winnable. They could have gone 2-1.
They should be. They should be. They shouldn't have lost to Jacksonville. If we're being honest, with how good they are supposed to be, they should not have lost to Jacksonville. They have spent the most money on the offensive line, and I get they have injuries right now. The offensive line doesn't look that good. I mean, as much as I love Quentin Nelson, there's nothing he can do when half the offensive line has looked like downright bad.
Yeah. And I think I know that Shaq Leonard was out and Pittman was out, but they're not going to be able to keep up. Kansas City, their defense might be questionable, but there's just too many playmakers in Kansas City compared to Indy. Matt Ryan, I get that week 1 was okay, but last week he looked awful. Kansas City, we saw against the Chargers, they'll be able to bring the pressure. They got to Herbert on a better offensive line, I will say. Colts, if it's going to be like this, how they've shown, they're in for a rude awakening. But with that said, I still think they could go 0-3 and win their division.
Absolutely. AFC South is it's a mess. Right now, Jacksonville looks like the best team, which is shocking. I love Doug Peterson, but for reasons that we can't talk about on this show. But I just love Doug Peterson, everything about Doug Peterson. And I'm a big fan of Trevor Lawrence. But, I mean, come on, man. Y'all are supposed to walk away with the division, especially with how bad Tennessee has looked. Indianapolis should be jumping for joy. Instead, they're fighting for their lives.
This was my sleeper pick coming into the year. I thought they were going to make probably a deep playoff run. I thought they had the talent to, but I don't know now. And I don't even want to say it's like Matt Ryan's fault because
whole team. It's been the whole team. Jonathan Taylor is absolved from guilt, but I mean he's Jonathan Taylor. The rest of the team, and Pittman played lights out in one. But the rest of the team, what are you doing? The defense and offensive line specifically. Where are you at?
They're better off putting traffic cones out there. I'm going to be honest.
You're taking Kansas City. I'm taking Kansas City.
I'm taking Kansas City. On to Carolina versus New Orleans.
Oh, boy. This is one of them games. This is one of them games that America loses by watching it. I love J-Bo. You know, I'm a huge J-Bo fan. The injury that he has sustained to his back made him look terrible against Tampa Bay. He looked like the old Jameis Winston, just without the touchdowns. You know, three picks, no touchdowns. Not good, Jameis. I need 3 picks, 3 touchdowns. Balance in life. Balance, Jameis, balance. As all things should be.
Yin and yang.
Yes. But Carolina, on the other hand, New Orleans defense has looked pretty good, and they have some real big weapons out there in the wide receiver room. And they're getting Kamara back, I think. Carolina, on the other hand, has had everyone healthy. Baker Mayfield just looks like cheeks. He's terrible. Matt Rule, you're getting fired. You're going to Alabama. I keep telling you this, Matt. I'm your agent. Bill O'Brien's taking your job next year.
There's nothing you can do. I'm sorry.
Yeah. With that said, I'm going to take Carolina because something tells me Baker, the media is flaming him. He's going to come out and have just a Baker game where he plays, pretty good, and they'll be able to beat New Orleans because I think Jameis Winston is more affected by this back injury than he's letting on, and we may start seeing some calls for Andy Dalton to come in.
I don't know this one. It's just like that. It's below mid, both teams. It's like I don't see a clear sight of who's going to win this one. I really don't. Like we said, Jameis Winston was hurt. He looked good week 1. Baker Mayfield can't hold on to the ball. He fumbled like 4 times the first game, but recovered all of them.
Also, somehow Baker sees Christian McCaffrey for a dump-off pass and thinks, I'm better off running for 3 yards and getting out of bounds. Baker, it's very simple for you. It's probably the easiest it's ever been in your career. If the white boy is in the flat, give it to him. He's better than you. I promise you, Baker. You don't have to be the hero. I swear to you, Baker, on my life. I don't know if Matt Rule's telling you different. Listen to me, not Matt Rule, okay? Give it to Christian McCaffrey. He will carry you to decent stats.
His ankles are fine right now. It's a couple weeks from down the road. That's when you have to worry about it, Baker. Right now,
you don't.
Give it to him all you want.
You should never scramble ever again in your life unless you absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Never, ever. You picking up 3 yards, Christian McCaffrey can pick up 15 yards.
At least.
I
really want to go Carolina in this one, but I think New Orleans might have the better defense in this one, and they just might keep them in the game. If it was in Carolina, I would say probably Carolina, but I don't know. I just feel like New Orleans has some good receivers. Landry, Michael Thomas, and Olave can do some work.
This game is in Carolina.
It is in Carolina? Oh, okay, then.
Yes.
I'm going Carolina then. I'll go Carolina.
I'm glad you brought up the receivers. I was saying that. I really like New Orleans' offensive pieces. I don't know, man. Like, their play calling hasn't looked phenomenal, and Jameis just looked downright bad. Now, it was against Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay does have a phenomenal defense. I get that. But, man, it's a scary thing with the back injuries. And, he's been questionable on the injury reports a lot, so obviously they're trying to manage his reps. And, you don't want to have him go out there in full practice with that injury. But it may just be hurting him. J-Bo just might not be J-Bo right now.
There's pain everywhere.
Just pain everywhere.
He's got to persevere. But speaking of injuries, we got Buffalo versus Miami next. Buffalo is going into this game possibly down 5 starters on the defensive end, at least 3. Hyde, Poyer, Phillips, Settle, and Jackson.
Yes, so you're missing 2 of your big defensive guys in the run game, and you're missing your 2 all-pro safeties. That is not a good combination when you're facing Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Baltimore can tell you. This is not good. And Tua looks like a phoenix rising from the ashes. It looks like he might actually be pretty good at football, and I might have been wrong. Tua might actually be a good quarterback. I'm going to hold judgment till the end of the season. I want to see a full season of this. I'm still taking Buffalo. Josh Allen is phenomenal. Stephon Diggs is on a whole new level. Gabe Davis should be back. Dawson Knox, he likes to party, as I've been told. And it doesn't matter about Buffalo's run game because Josh Allen is their run game. So it doesn't matter. And again, it's on Tua.
I think you're right. I mean, Buffalo's still going to win this one. They just looked amazing the first 2 weeks. I'm not sold on Tua still. I'm really not. Just because most of his yards were when they were down by like 20. When you have to throw the ball. If you give me a game where they're going back and forth, where they're probably going to get some more run plays in the game, I don't think you're going to see the numbers he's putting up. But
so
he did look good.
Is Trubisky also had a 6-touchdown game. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Nick Foles had a 7-touchdown game.
Exactly. Let's not crown him yet.
Yeah.
He's looked better. He has looked like Brian Flores maybe held him back a little bit. Still, I got to see more than that, man. Mike McDaniels looks great at his job right now, though. But it's pretty damn easy when you got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot of plays that you can design for those two specifically that are going to go for negative yardage.
If you do, you probably shouldn't be a head coach. But Stephon Diggs, I mean, I want to talk about him a little bit. Just tearing it up. 20 catches, 270 yards, 4 touchdowns. This is scary. This really is, because he did it the first week. I don't think Jalen Ramsey was on him every coverage, but I know his touchdown, he was on him. And like he said, he is him. He is that guy.
Him. And had a great Michael Jackson celebration in the end zone. That was cold.
It was a thriller.
That boy can dance.
You got the feet twinkle. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I just think this game is going to be a shootout, and I would rather have Josh Allen in a shootout
than Tua.
Than Tua.
Yeah.
I don't think that's crazy.
I know that Tua threw the ball deep, but it still took a lot out of him on those throws. If you look back at the highlights, he was putting his all into those. But I got Buffalo as well. We'll move on. Detroit versus Minnesota. This
is my game of the week, Tommy. This is the game.
Take it away. Take it away.
Everyone should be watching this game. If you play fantasy football, which I know a lot of people do, it doesn't matter. Fantasy football, Minnesota fan, Detroit fan, just a football fan, watch this game. This game right here is going to have it all. It's going to have subpar to below average defenses, and it's going to have superstars on the offensive end. We've got Hemi Turner and Kirk Cousins. We've got Justin J. Jetta Jefferson. We've got Adam Thielen. We've got DeAndre Swift. Jamal Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god. We've got Jared Goff. We've got 2 hard workers at quarterbacks, and we've got a million offensive pieces for these coaches to play with and some subpar defenses. Tommy, this is going to be a shootout. It should have the highest over-under total of the week. I don't know if it does or not, but it should.
Yeah. You're not wrong. I mean... Both these teams have been electric. Not in the same week, though. Minnesota was an electric week, too. It's just, I'm glad that I have Sunday Ticket if it's going to hold up this week.
Listen, it was Monday Night Kirk, all right? This is Kirk Cousins' 1 p.m. game.
This is primetime Kirk.
This is why I call him Hemi Turner, all right? It's not primetime Kirk. It's not Monday Night Kirk where he's going to throw. He's not going to do what he did against Philly, okay? Darius Slay's not out there. He can't hurt him anymore. This is 1 p.m. Only Minnesota fans are watching him. This is where Kirk Cousins, he averaged 280 yards and 2 touchdowns against Detroit, by the way, and they're giving up the most points to quarterbacks. That's a fantasy stat, but it doesn't matter. Fantasy points means real points in games are being scored. Kirk Cousins is going for 300 yards and 3 tutties in this game.
How about Jared Goff? What's he going to do this game? Because he looked good again. Who they played? Washington?
Jared Goff has looked really good.
Yeah.
Minnesota has no run defense to be spoke of right now, and DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams have been the engine that is igniting this team. DeAndre Swift has looked amazing, phenomenal, downright spectacular. okay? And Amon-Ra St. Brown had a 52-yard carry. This guy can do it all. He literally is a god, not just a sun god, a god. Detroit, Jared Goff, this is very easy for him. Dump off passes to Swift, little slants to Amon-Ra. He can take the deep shots. He's been doing it. DJ Chark has looked pretty good. TJ Hawkinson hasn't had a good game yet. He might have a good game this week. Jared Goff is going for 250 and 3 touchdowns. We're getting touchdowns from everybody. This is the game I'm watching.
You got me fired up for this game. With that being
Campbell,
said,
he just brings something out of me, man.
I mean, they're going to take their kneecaps on the way up. The Detroit kneecap killers. With all that being said, who you got winning this one?
Give me Minnesota. I love Dan Campbell. Love me some Dan Campbell. But I think Kirk Cousins, for the sake of, all that is holy in Minnesota, he's going to have a good game. And I said he's got to throw for 5,000 yards. So he's got to make up for that last week, Monday night performance. He's got to go for a lot. And I think Justin Jefferson's going to be pissed off that Darius Slay owned him. So, and Detroit's corners are not. I was just about to corner on there like Darius Slay.
I was just about to say they don't even have one like Jair Alexander. So Justin Jefferson is going, I think, to have a field day. I got Minnesota winning as well. But this is going to be an ecstatic, electric game. 1:00 Sunday.
Let's see. The over-under on this game is 52.5. The Bills game was 53. I think this is the second highest over-under. It is. It is the second highest. So they almost got it right.
Which one? How much more do you think will be higher than the Bills game?
I don't know, man. Like I said, I think the Bills Miami should be a shootout as well. I just think those two teams have pretty decent defenses, even if Buffalo's missing everybody. Minnesota's defense is pretty bad, and Detroit's defense, very inspired. They love Dan Campbell. Talent-wise, it's not there yet, okay?
It can only do so much, the love for a head coach.
But they have been getting a lot of pressures. Their defensive line has been pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's not on the defensive line. Aiden Hutchinson's looked every bit of that pick. It's been the secondary. The secondary is just atrocious.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot you can do about that.
I know they haven't drafted well at the secondary, but Okuda looked good week 1. I don't think I think it was week 1 he looked pretty good. I didn't see what he did in week 2. We'll see how it goes, but he's got a tough task. He's probably going to be on Jefferson most of the game.
Minnesota, run defense, not their strong suit. Yeah. And like I said, Detroit's offensive line was being underrated. They are giving their running backs the most yards before contact, 3.8 yards before contact. It might be 3.2, something like that. This unit is what they are, is phenomenal. Dan Campbell, well done. Now give DeAndre Swift 30 carries, please.
Dan Campbell, man. Inspirational. What a man.
Inspirational. Detroit might not win a ton of games. They might only win 5. But they're going to be the most exciting team because you don't know if they're going to score 30 or if Jared Goff's going to throw 4 picks. But it's going to be exciting either way.
Who knows? I mean, if Jared Goff keeps this up.
They're in every game, Tommy.
Yeah.
They're the underdogs that never quit. They believe they can win every game.
I know. That's what Dan Campbell
fired
wanted.
up. I am so fired up. I'm a Niners fan, but deep down,
you're a Dan Campbell fan.
I'm a Dan Campbell fan.
It's Dan Campbell versus the world.
I don't want that pain as a Lions fan, so I'm not going to say that. But I'll say a Dan Campbell fan.
Yes. All right. We got some other games to look at before you go watch some tape on Detroit versus Minnesota. We got Philly versus Washington. This is Carson Wentz's first game back for Philly, and he'll probably still be thrown to Philly.
Well, Philly fans love to boo former players because they're just terrible people. Well, actually, Jalen Reagor deserved it. I'm going to be honest. That was fair. Carson Wentz, he might get some boos. He might get some cheers. I'm going to take Philly. I don't think it needs to be explained why. They've just looked really good. Jalen Hurts has seemed to figure it out a little bit. I'm not 100% convinced yet, but he's looked better. And they finally realized that Miles Sanders is the best running back on this roster, and they fed him accordingly. Now, I would still like to see him do it more in the pass game, but it is what it is. At least they're giving him 15 to 18 rushes a game on the ground. That's what he needs. Nick Sirianni's doing an excellent job in that department. And I believe their defense is just really, really good. I thought they had one of the best drafts defensively, even though I didn't love the Jordan Davis pick. I don't have a lot to say about him because I really haven't watched him in the NFL that much. But the Nakobe Dean pick and just all the other picks they made just have paid off and are going to continue to pay off. And Darius Slay might be the best corner in the NFL. So give me Philly.
You saying he's top 2, not 2?
I'm saying he's top 2, not 2.
Damn. All right. Jalen Hurts has looked better as a passer. Like you said, Miles Sanders is clear number 1. But this is an interesting game for Washington because I think they could be in this game the whole time. They're a very well-coached team. They figure out a scheme to get all these playmakers involved. And they've made Carson Wentz look like a good quarterback, which doesn't happen a lot. Really doesn't.
Frank Reich couldn't do it.
Yeah. And he was his offensive coordinator when he almost was a MVP. It was that season. That's about it for Carson Wentz. But A.J. Brown has been huge for this team. I'm interested to see how Washington game plans against him because he better be doubled almost every possession.
And you know what? Jalen Hurts is force-feeding A.J. Brown a little bit, but he went back to Devonta Smith, and, Devonta Smith is still super talented. He gets open a lot. But the key here is if, can they stop Dallas Goedert? Because I think people really underrate how good Dallas Goedert is. He is very athletic. And Jalen Hurts trusts him. I don't know if you saw the throw on Monday night. He threw it to him in triple coverage. It was a hell of a throw, by the way. Dallas Goedert dropped it. He put it where only he could get it. But Jalen trusts Dallas a lot. And I think if teams are going to start trying to take away A.J. Brown, take away the short game to Devonta Smith, we're going to see Dallas Goedert be an absolute difference maker. And I think that's going to continue. So I know you're talking about Washington's playmakers. Philly is not short on playmakers in their passing game either.
They aren't. But I don't think anyone's going to be able to stop Dallas Goedert, like you said, though, because this Washington linebacker core is not that great. We saw some bright spots last year. I think he could be in for a big game. That's probably the NFC version of Big Trust. I'm not going to lie. Not going to lie. But I also got Philly in this one just because this is a divisional game, and I don't see Philly losing a lot of divisional games. I really don't.
No. Washington, I think, will surprise people and stay in this game, and Carson Wentz will continue to play well. But I just don't think their defense is going to be good enough to stop Philly. And it's not going to be a shootout. We're going to get, there's going to be some 3-and-outs in this game. But I will take Philly in a game that should be pretty heavily possession-based, I would say.
Yeah.
Over Washington.
Next up, Jacksonville heading to L.A. against the Chargers.
I had Jacksonville in this game, I'm not going to lie. Dougie P, love him. I thought he got a bad rap in Philly, and I love me some T-Law. But I'm going to take the Chargers because they got to Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs' offensive line is probably a whole lot better than Jacksonville's at this current moment. And Trevor Lawrence, I'm going to say this is pretty much his rookie year in terms of actually having a good head coach. Urban Meyer didn't do a whole lot for him last year, for being honest, and he's having to learn a new system again. I think the Chargers' defense is going to win them this game because I think they're going to force Trevor Lawrence to make some questionable decisions, and Derwin James and the rest of that secondary will capitalize on that.
Yeah, I just think the Chargers are too well-rounded on both sides of the ball for Jacksonville to keep up. I mean, Kansas City, there were times in the Thursday night game, they didn't look that good. They had a couple big plays that made the offense look great overall, but I think the Chargers, I think this team's still one of the best in the AFC. I really do.
I think they're still better than the Chiefs. And, it comes down to red zone execution in that game. If Justin Herbert doesn't turn into a bum in the red zone, they win that game.
And Gerald Everett doesn't pass out on the field from being so fatigued.
Yeah.
We don't see a 99-yard interception, I don't think. But, like you said, I got to go Chargers as well in this one. I don't think there's really much else to say. I mean, both these teams are really talented. This is, for me, one of my clear-cut games of the week.
Yeah.
And then we got, this is America's game of the week, I believe. Green Bay versus Tampa Bay. Which Bay is going to win this one?
But Bay, I'm taking Green Bay, but only because Tom Brady's going to be without what's looking to be maybe his top 3 weapons. Mike Evans is suspended, Godwin's not playing, and they're saying Julio's going to be a game-time decision. So I'm going to take Green Bay just because of the lack of weapons that Tampa is going to have. But Green Bay's run defense, again, has not looked good this season. They did okay against Minnesota, but they let Justin Jefferson light them up, so it didn't matter. And then David Montgomery had a hell of a game against them. I think Lenny can have a big game, but I'm gonna take Green Bay.
I'm glad you said that because going into this game earlier in the week, I thought Tampa Bay was going to win. And then Mike Evans got suspended, and now Julio's game time. That means their wide receiver one's Russell Gage, probably. I mean, Russell Gage is a good slot receiver.
Russell Gage, Scotty Miller, and Brashad Perry.
Yeah. And Tom Brady, I don't think's looked that great the first 2 games.
No.
I've watched him a lot when he was in New England. The only year that I really saw him look bad was 2019, second half of the year. I think he looks a little worse than this so far.
And on the other side, I agree that Tom Brady has not looked that great. The other side of this matchup is Green Bay is also going to be without a lot of their pass catching.
Yeah.
And Tampa Bay is really good at controlling the run. They're amazing against the run. But man, it's a lot to take on A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Those, and especially with the way Green Bay feeds them. Lenny's going to have a big game against this Green Bay defense, I believe. I just don't think it's going to be enough for them to beat Green Bay. But I would not be shocked if this is just another one of those just heavyweight fights where just defenses imposing their will. This might be 17-10, 17-13, something like that. I don't think either of these teams is going to put up a high score total.
I agree. I really want to go Green Bay in this one, but I have a feeling they're just going to force feed Lenny. I know that he's questionable right now with hamstring, but he was last week, and he looked solid. He didn't look great, but he looked great against Dallas.
Yeah.
And I think when there's a will, there's a way with Brady. We know that.
Yeah.
I think it's in Tampa, right?
Yeah.
I think they're going to get the job done. I guarantee it's probably going to come down to a field goal.
Oh, yeah. If I had to pick a game for a game-winning field goal, it would be this one. I don't think this is going to be a good watch by any means necessary.
Yeah. I think Rodgers, he still has looked great under center. There's no question about that. But this pass defense for Tampa has held up. This is probably one of the worst out of the 3 wide receiver cores they're going to face so far. I mean, Dallas didn't look great, but Dallas had CeeDee Lamb, who Pro Bowl potential. This Green Bay receiver, I don't see any of them coming close to All-Pro if Allen Lazard's not in the field. So
yeah, I mean, if Allen Lazard misses, this becomes the Randall Cobb and Romeo Dobbs show, and I think Randall Cobb might even be questioned.
Yeah,
they're missing a lot, and the only reason I'm saying Green Bay is because I think they're going to find a way to scheme Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon into this game in an impactful way. But I agree. I mean, defensively, Tampa Bay should have no problem against these receivers.
I I think this is going to be probably one of the better 4 o'clock games or 4:25 games. I got Tampa. The other one's going to be Rams versus Arizona.
This is one of those NFC West matchups where you just don't know what's going to happen. I thought Arizona was dead against the Raiders. I looked at them and said, well, this team is trash, and Cliff Kingsbury might get fired midseason. And then somehow Kyler Murray pulled a rabbit out of his hat and, brought him back and did some magical things that Kyler Murray, when he's on, only Kyler Murray can do. I'm going to take Los Angeles. I think that their defense is better than Arizona's in every facet of the game. I thought Ernest Jones looked amazing, and that linebacker core is better than I anticipated. And Arizona doesn't have an answer for Cooper Kupp. They got to get the run game going at some point, but they don't even need a run game with the way Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford had played early. And Matt Stafford looked a whole lot better against Atlanta, which we all thought he would. So I'll take the Rams. I think Arizona can keep it close, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to who can stop Cooper Kupp, and I just don't see anyone on that defense stopping him.
I'm also taking the Rams. I don't think there's going to be another miracle where Kyler Murray's running around in the backfield for 20 seconds before getting a 2-point conversion.
Not against Aaron Donald. Yeah, not against Aaron Donald. It's
not going to look like a toddler is running away from their parents when they steal a phone. I mean, they have Arizona's number. We saw what happened in the playoffs. This is a less talented Arizona team. There still might be questions on the Rams side, but this is kind of a get-right game after they almost blew the Atlanta one. I got Rams winning this easily. And that leaves, speaking of Atlanta versus Seattle, probably another game where America loses.
America loses, yes. Geno Smith versus Marcus Mariota, as some Tennessee fans wanted to call him early in his career. I'll break it down matchup-wise. Atlanta, you have Kyle Pitts against a secondary that is missing Jamal Adams. Arthur, it doesn't have to be fantasy football. Getting Kyle Pitts the ball helps you win games, believe it or not. He said he wants him to sacrifice and get the run game right. Well, it's looked great, Arthur. It's looked phenomenal. It looks like you're really getting Kyle Pitts to block in the red zone, man. It's just doing wonders for that offense. It should be a very simple game plan. Kyle Pitts should get 15 targets in this game. He should score 2 touchdowns. You should beat Seattle easily. Don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to be honest. And for that reason, I'm going to take Seattle. I think Arthur Smith is going to continue to get in his own way. He's not going to exploit these matchups properly. And Seattle is just going to win a mess of a game. It's going to be atrocious.
I'm also going Seattle in this one just because I know that Geno Smith didn't look good week 2, but I have a feeling that it's going to look better week 3, more like week 1.
He looked okay against Denver. And Atlanta's defense is nowhere near Denver.
Yeah. And I know Seattle's got a lot of injuries on the defensive side. Jamal Adams is out, but I think Diggs might be out too. Which it's just a weird game in my opinion. I could see it going either way. I could see Atlanta blowing out Seattle. I can see Seattle,
absolutely,
Seattle blowing out Atlanta, and then I could see them both winning close games. I just don't know. But I'm going to go with Seattle just because I've seen Geno Smith look good this season against better defenses. I think he gets it done.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything else you want to add before we move on to Sunday night?
Arthur Smith, get Kyle Pitts the ball. I want to see Kyle Pitts dominate because this is a matchup he should absolutely dominate.
He should have been dominating the past 2 weeks, but I'll leave that there.
I understand that.
Sunday night, San Fran versus Denver. You want to take it away, sir?
San Fran. We got San Fran -1.5. Tommy, this is one of the bonus games. You got to pick the spread. You got to pick the matchup. I'm going to take San Francisco. I'll take the -1.5. Jimmy Garoppolo. The Trey Lance injury is heartbreaking. It's not a much better backup you can have in the NFL than Jimmy Garoppolo. He took this team to the Super Bowl. He took them to an NFC Championship game. The guys love him. They seemed happy he was back on the field with them. They might be a better team right now with Jimmy compared to Trey because he needed reps to develop. So give me San Francisco. I think we'll finally beat Russell Wilson now that he's away from Pete Carroll and the black magic that is Seattle.
I'm also going San Fran on this one. I think their defense is going to will them in this win. But Jimmy G, we know what he can do in San Fran's offense. Yeah, he's not your typical great quarterback, but he gets wins. He gets wins in the scheme.
Does get wins.
Shanahan knows how to coach with him. I don't see San Fran losing this one. And
they're going to hit Denver where they're the weakest.
Yeah.
They're not going to attack the corners. They're not going to attack outside the numbers. They're going to go over the middle of the field, and that is where Denver's weakest part of the defense is in the linebacker core. And George Kittle's back, and we know what George Kittle does to Denver.
And I think you're going to see Debo taking a lot of snaps out of the backfield in this one.
We've sacrificed our 2 running backs, man. We've hit our quota.
If Rashad Penny can look good, Debo Samuel can look great against this defense. I got them also covering the spread. It was -1.5, you said, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that will be covered. And then the next one, Dallas. This is Monday Night Football. Dallas versus the New York Giants.
Over-under of 39, by the way, so that should tell you how you should feel about the quarterbacks in this matchup. Give me Dallas because the defense has looked great, and I am tired of Giants fans being happy. You're 2-0. Your team is ass. You know your team is ass. Stop pretending that it's not bad. Daniel Jones does not look any better under Brian DeBoe. Brian DeBoe has just said, stop turning the ball over. They have a pass rush, and Danny fumbles a lot, is going to show up. So give me Dallas. Dallas defense. I don't even need to see what the offense does. Dallas's defense is going to beat the Giants on their own.
They covering the spread? Or yeah, are we doing over-unders too?
No. We'll just do the spread. It's Giants -1. Give me Dallas +1 easily. They're going to win this game.
This Giants team is just I just saw this fact today. The worst graded 2-0 team since 1981.
Good God.
I just want people to look back and see what their first 2 wins were. Tennessee, who looked awful week 2, barely beat Tennessee as well. Came down to a missed field goal. And Carolina. Let's not act like they're these playoff teams that, oh my God, these are shockers. Maybe Tennessee was a little less 50-50. That Carolina game's 50-50 going in.
Yes.
And Barkley came down from heaven, I feel like, in the second game. That first half, he had 6 yards. 6 whole yards the whole half. I want to stop hearing how, oh my God, Saquon Barkley's the greatest thing to walk earth for Giants fan. I get that he's good when healthy, but they still have to prove something to me. They're not beating good teams so far. This is their biggest test against a Dallas team who has a great pass rush, as you said. And I think Cooper Rush can game manage them a game. If they can do it against Cincinnati, they can do it against the Giants.
Cooper Rush didn't look terrible. Yeah. I mean, he definitely wasn't Dak.
No.
But, he was better than Dak. He started against Tampa Bay for sure. And he got CeeDee Lamb 11 targets. He knows who to throw to, right? This is not a backup that's coming in and throwing to, God knows who. He's throwing to good targets. I don't know if Dalton Schultz is going to play in this game or not. But CeeDee Lamb, Noah Brown has looked pretty good. They've got Tony Pollard out of the backfield. They've still got Zeke. This offense it's 2 game managers. We got Daniel Jones and Cooper Rush.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Cooper Rush be terrible in any of the games he's played. I have seen on numerous, countless occasions, Daniel Jones look like the worst quarterback to ever be on an NFL field.
Multiple times. And Cooper Rush last game, 299 yards and a touchdown. In my opinion, I think is more accurate than Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, I don't think is that accurate. He throws a lot of balls at either behind receivers, out of bounds, where they're more 50-50 balls. I think Cooper Rush, like he said, knows who to throw to. Because last year when he came in for Dak against Minnesota, Amari Cooper had the best game of the season for him. Like 11 catches,
Lamb had a really
130
good
yards,
game as well.
3 touchdowns. Yeah. I think CeeDee Lamb, who's covering him against New York? Who's covering him? Yeah. And you still have to worry about Zeke. I get that Zeke may look a step slower, but he still's looked good the first 2 weeks. He's not getting the touchdowns or the passing game, but that might change this week. You never know. I don't know what goes on in Kellen Moore's mind because I think he's a terrible play caller. He's not impressed me at all the first 4 years there. But I got Dallas winning this one. I think, like you said, Micah Parsons could be in for a huge game. Even Dante Fowler could be in for a huge game, and he's no Randy Gregory like he was last year.
I literally just Cooper Rush doesn't turn the ball over to win this game. I don't understand why the Giants are favored at all. Nothing tells me that the Giants should be favored because Cooper Rush, again, I mean, we have to see him for more than 2 games starting. This may be a situation like most backups where the longer he plays, the worse he gets. But as of right now, I haven't seen anything to tell me that Cooper Rush is any worse than Daniel Jones, if not better.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, Giants want to do a whiteout. They want all the fans to dress up in white. That's cute. I mean,
you might get blanked.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Noah Brown has a big game too. Noah Brown's looked solid the first 2 weeks.
Cooper Rush has given me nothing but confidence that he can get his receivers the ball.
Cooper Rush is Mr. Gold Rush.
Lamb and Noah Brown's.
He's Mr. Gold Rush.
Should be an easy game for Dallas.
Yeah. That just like that, we're done with week 3. That's all we got.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you got all the picks down for you.
Yep, I do.
Right. We'll read off the records to start off next week. But anything you'd like to say before we sign off here?
Ah, man, that's it. If you watch this, you listen to this, please watch the Minnesota Detroit game, please. Listen, it should be the best game of the week. If you like offense, you should love that game. So please, for Dan Campbell's sake, watch that game because in Dan Campbell we trust.
I like that. Dan Campbell we trust. That is it for this episode of The Locker Room. I'm Tommy Tellerino alongside Jordan Navarro. And we hope you have a great week. And we'll see you guys probably next Saturday when it's uploaded. Peace.
Peace.